Let's take a look at Design 300 Section 7 in our assignment guide. It's activity 7.4. We're going to look at just a very typical wood framing construction cost estimate. There's going to be material and labor, and they are usually calculated separately. So let's take a look, and this is what's called a module estimate. It's not super precise. It gives a good ballpark because you just kind of go, okay, it's going to be kind of like this. And so if I've got an estimate based on some number of feet or square feet or a standard grouping, then I can do a very quick rough estimate. This is not the same as a material takeoff where you count every board and nail and shingle and piece of insulation. This is far more general, but it's very, very quick. So it gives you a good rough estimate. So let's take a look and see. And this is called a modular estimate. So when we look at how a wall is made, and we're going to do some wood work, and we're going to put some stuff into that wood, we know that there are, framed walls, and often designers work in modules of 8 feet long by 8 feet tall. That's a very typical size, and that's because many things fit that size very well. Sheetrock, OSB, plywood, even bricks all fit this 8-foot length very, very well. Now, not everything is exactly 8 feet, but if you were to estimate a 6-foot versus an 8-foot, you wouldn't be far off. If you were to estimate a 4-footer, you could probably cut the 8-foot in half. If you needed it to be 10 feet tall instead of 8, you wouldn't be off by a lot by making this estimate using this 8 by 8 module. So what you can see here is here's a typical 8-foot by 8-foot module. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 studs, a top plate and a bottom plate. And then you have to do something to put it all together. And usually that's putting some insulation in between these pieces here. Now, often you put board insulation on, but we're going to just say we're putting in a type of insulation that just goes in between there. It's usually got some sort of a Tyvek or plastic wrap to keep water out. And there's some sealant that goes down along the bottom and along the sides, often when you build in this modular fashion. And then, of course, there's going to be fasteners, nails that get nailed in top and bottom. Now, we know that there's going to be other things in here. If there's a window, there's going to be a header and some blocking and maybe a door and some things like that. But this is a modular estimate, okay? When we do put in the window, we'll account for making a cut and putting in a header, and maybe if it's a door, putting in a king stud or some jack studs. These particular modules are not the greatest. You could do much better if you wanted to be more complete and precise on your design, but this will give you the right idea of what's going on with these, okay? So there's a wall module. A window module has the window. Flashing, that's some stuff that goes over the window and underneath the window so that water can't penetrate. There's some sealant, some fasteners, and again, there's a header. And then the same thing with a door. And I'm going to consider a pre-hung door because that's the easiest. And that will have flashing, sealant, fasteners, a king stud over on the right, on the hinge side, and a header. So those are the materials, and your job would be to count them up, find out how much they cost, And I've given you a resource sheet that you can look up costs for. And they're all linked to real things, either the material safety data sheet or where you actually buy it. And most companies have something like this. Sometimes it's a book and a binder. Sometimes it's online. But here are your costs per foot for each one, per foot. So this is a resource for you that you can figure out your costs. You count them up, and then you go find the costs. And all the rest happens. If I have one sill plate and it's $4.50, it starts adding it up for me. That's kind of nice. Same with the windows, same with the doors. So that's how you use the material one. For the labor, well, and let me look down at the bottom. Then if you know how many modules there will be, how many modules are there going to be? So if this is what my design is, and you'll have to look at it closer, but this is 8 foot, 12 foot, 24 foot, 6 foot, 6 foot. So this wall here is one module. This is 1.5. So I've got 1 plus 1.5 plus, that one's going to be 3 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2 more plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 1.5 more. Okay, and if I add all those up by putting an equal sign in front of that, that's 16 wall modules to make this outside building shell. I'm going to put 16 wall modules. How many windows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 windows, so I'll need 8 window modules. And it looks like there's 2 doors. And I'm only doing the external. Okay? And then if I had costs in here, let me put one sill plate for $4.50. This thing reads it. And it gives you your total framing material cost. So this little calculator does a lot of it already for you. Okay? So a lot of that is already for you. Some of these you might need to make a little bit bigger to get to read it all. Okay? So figure out the cost of each module by plugging in these numbers for the quantities and looking on the resource sheet to get the costs. And then count up how many modules you've got in your building. And away you go. Okay. And then the next part is the labor. So that's how much it costs to get the materials. Somebody's got to put it together. So we have things to do. Set the sill plate, set the studs, set the top plate. These are things to do. And there's how many times you're going to do it and about how long in hours it takes. So this only takes a minute for each one, 0.2 minutes. Okay, and I've converted all those for you. So these ones you can pretty much leave as is. You don't need to do any of your own estimates on that. Okay, but for each wall module, it'll cost close to $50 to build one. To install a window will be somewhere around $99, and to install a door, $103.57. So I'd do the same thing, right? 16, 8, and 2. So I've got almost $1,800 in labor and whatever I come up with there. Okay, so these are just very simple ways that you can get a rough estimate of the cost. And contract management people use that a lot, a rough estimate, just for planning purposes. how much time will I need, who will I need, when will I need them, about how much is it going to cost me. And then if everything looks like it's in the ballpark, if it's okay, they may spend more time to get closer and closer if the values are big enough to make that important. So there we go. That's how to do a building envelope cost, material and labor estimate based on our little sheet. And yes, you can do far, far more intricate, more involved, more technically taking care of all the things, which is what you would expect in industry. But we're just learning about it. And so this should be good enough to give you a good idea.